Hey friends, David Fowler here. And for those in our constituency that are interested in understanding what's going on with respect to the new abortion law passed by the General Assembly this past legislative session, the bill proposed by the governor, and the rulings that have been going back and forth between the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals and the Federal District Court, I thought I would do a couple of little short videos to help you understand what's going on in that case, and to let you know that actually a very important hearing will take place December 7th. So even though in the span of about 10 days there have been 3 rulings, one by the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals and 2 by the Federal District Court, there's still another important hearing coming up on December 7th. So let me just lay out a little bit of the background, and then we'll provide another little video with more information. What you need to appreciate about all this moving around in the court system is that there are 2 parts to the law that is in question. The first part of the law is what we would call the gestational or timing bans against abortion. It begins at the heartbeat and says you can't have a doctor cannot perform an abortion once a heartbeat is detected. But the law then says there's a severability clause. It says if that's not constitutional, then the doctor can't perform the abortion after 8 weeks from the beginning of the pregnancy. And if that's not constitutional, then the doctor can't perform the abortion after 10 weeks. And it goes on with those severability clauses from the heartbeat to 8 weeks to 10 weeks to 12 weeks, 15, 18, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24 weeks. And that's the first part of the law. The second part of the law, and that's the one that we've had in front of the courts predominantly in the last week, says that, well, regardless of heartbeat or gestational age, a doctor cannot perform an abortion if the abortion is done because of the child's sex, race or ethnicity, or the child having a diagnosis of Down syndrome. So let's just assume a couple of things to help picture what this law looks like. If the court were to say that the timing or gestational ban is completely invalid, then there might still be a valid ban for race, sex, and a Down syndrome diagnosis. Similarly, the court could say, well, the heartbeat ban is unconstitutional, 8 weeks is unconstitutional, 10 weeks is unconstitutional, 12 weeks is unconstitutional, but at 15 weeks, yes, the state can ban an abortion. Great, good. But the court could then also hold, in addition to that, abortions under 15 weeks would still be banned if the reason for the abortion is because of the child's sex, race, ethnicity, or the Down syndrome diagnosis. So those are 2 parts of the bill, and there are different orders from the district court and the circuit court that pertain to those 2 different things. So that's why it seems like there have been a flurry of rulings. Now, let me also bring you into the loop a little bit on what the current challenge is. When abortion clinics or women bring a lawsuit against an abortion law, they normally challenge the law under what we call a facial invalidity. In other words, on the face of the law, it is invalid. Let me give you an example of that. If we passed a law in Tennessee that said a person of African ancestry is not allowed to register to vote, well, on its face, that would be unconstitutional. It wouldn't matter if we said, well, you can register to vote if you have a college education, or you can read, or you can write, or you can do certain basic math. You see, we'd say it doesn't matter what any of those differences are. You just can't base registration to vote on somebody's ethnicity. It's just facially invalid. So a facial challenge is saying there's no set of circumstances under which the law could be valid. Period. End of the discussion. You can't figure out a reason how this law could even apply to anybody. That's a facial challenge. That's the kind of challenge that's been made by the plaintiffs and the courts have ruled on. Now there's another kind of challenge, which is an as-applied challenge. So in that kind of case, what the court is saying, well, there might be circumstances in which this law would be valid. So it's not facially invalid. But then the court looks at the particular person involved and said, oh, but when this law is applied to this person, well, yeah, in that case, it is, as applied, as the law is applied, invalid. So what the federal district court originally did, right after the law was passed, is he said that the laws were facially invalid, both parts of the law. Okay? And he prevented the state from enforcing either part of the law, either the gestational or timing part of the law, or what's called the reasons or discrimination ban part of the law. He prohibited both of those. So that's where the case stood before this flurry of orders from the U.S. Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals and the rulings recently of the Federal District Court. In our next video, we'll explain exactly what was taking place in front of the District Court, what temporary restraining orders are, what preliminary injunction orders are, and what this hearing is about on December the 7th. So I hope you'll join us for the next video.